Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. I'm your host, Dakota Ray. So excited to have Emmerly on today. Let's go.
Yeah, how are you? Of
I'm so good. Thanks so much for joining us at CreatorCon.
course. Can't wait.
And I want to shout out Esha Naturals for powering our beauty stage today. We're going to have a great chat with Emmerly and can't wait to get into it. So, Emmerly, what's your story? Like, how did you get into this creator space? What's going on?
So originally I started off as a dancer and like a
Okay.
competitive dancer, and then I got into acting. And then from there, it was kind of just like I kind of ventured into creating. I started creating content when I think I was like grade 11, grade 10 or 11.
Okay.
So I kind of just, it fell from like acting to dancing to creating. It was just kind of like all in one. Yeah.
Interesting. So you're a dancer by like that's your kind of like number one thing. Like that's what you love to do.
Yeah.
And then kind of went into like I guess creating content over time.
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting. So did that benefit you like on TikTok, you think?
Definitely during the pandemic, I was definitely doing more dancing before I started to do like makeup. I think makeup and dancing kind of started at the same time because it was just like something I did.
For sure.
And then it kind of went hand in hand. So it worked out perfectly.
Cool. Because I was gonna ask you, what are things that you've learned as a kid that you think lended itself to you being in the creator space today?
Definitely, I think starting off as a kid, I was a bit outgoing. So I think being able to perform and I could talk your ear off. So that started off when I was younger as well. So I think that really helps me be able to communicate with like my audience and like everyone's like a friend to me at this point. Like if you comment on my videos, like we're gonna talk. So I
Okay.
think that where it started.
Interesting. So, I mean, when you talk about like you're going to get into it, they're your friends. I mean, I've chatted with people who are like their fans or their community. So you're using the word friends. Do you feel that interaction with the people that follow you?
Well, for sure. If you comment, like we're gonna kiki. We start going about things, and then at some point I'm like, hey, we probably should stop. But yeah, like, that's what I love of the community. Is like I want to treat it as like you're not just a fan or your follower. You're definitely like you're engaging with me. And I'm like, yeah, we can talk.
Okay. Does it ever move from like chats to DMs to other things or no?
Sometimes, and honestly, I'm so open to it. I can always use some friends, if I'm being honest. So I love to know more. Like, why do you like to watch me? Like, what do we connect on, if that makes sense?
Absolutely. So, was there ever a time where you were like, nah, this is just not for me? Like, I'm not supposed to be on social media. I'm not supposed to be showing my life. Like, this isn't it.
Sometimes, because obviously people have their opinions and stuff like that. So I feel like I am a sensitive person, but at the same time, I also know like people are gonna have their own opinions. So there's times like that where I'll make a couple of TikToks and people have something to say, but you also learn to like laugh it off. But other than that, I just love it. Like it's
Yeah,
obviously hard work, and I think sometimes that's where I'm like, okay, I don't know if I'm built for this, but then again, I also enjoy it, so then it kind of
it
counteracts.
works.
Yeah,
So, how old are you?
I'm 25.
You're 25. So, you grew up on social. Like, you had it like as a young person ish for the most part.
Ish, yeah. It's probably started more when at like the end of my end of high school.
End
Yeah.
of high school. Okay. So having it in high school, do you think that absolutely influenced you to be in this space because like your friends were doing it, it's how you communicated, so then it was just kind of natural?
100%. I think out of like all my friends, I'm the one who does like social media. So
Okay.
I think I was always the one to post. Like I was posting like 3 times a week in high school, like kind of working with brands. And so yeah, I can definitely it definitely did start when I was in high school, you know?
So do you think they need to have like a course in high school or in university for like become a creator, become a social media influencer? Like, do you think that there's things that they can be taught or you kind of figure it out on your own?
I think you can figure it on your own. Honestly, at this point, like TikTok University will teach you everything you need to know. Like if you go on TikTok, you can figure it out for sure. Because some people, I feel like it's not for everyone. So I feel like if you really want to learn, the resources are out there. So I think you can figure it out on your own. I never muted.
So how do you keep that balance between sharing, obviously when you were younger on social media, like you're sharing things that you're doing with your friends and it's fun and your family, but like how do you keep that balance of what to post and what not to post? Right? Like what do you keep private versus what do you tell people about?
100%. If I'm being so honest, I wish I was one of those people that could post like their whole life.
Okay.
I'm a yapper. So if it was up to me and I didn't have like the anxiety behind like other people's opinions sometimes, everyone would know everything. I promise you everyone would. But I'm 25 and the TV show I'm on is for a younger audience. So there's that boundary as well as like I can only show honestly and truly like if I go to like get a drink with my friends, I don't necessarily post it because I have a younger audience watching. As I'm getting a little bit older, I'm like loosening up a little. Because I would literally probably spill my whole life if I didn't if I didn't have a little bit of a younger audience because I like to yap. But my friends I share, if I go out and do something cool, I share. I do like this year, maybe my goal is to open up a little bit more about what I share because yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I love when I watch people and they talk about everything. It's my favorite part. So I'm like, I kind of want to do that.
So what do you talk about caring about the audience? Like you're somebody who's obviously had success, you've grown a following, you still care about what people say, like the negative stuff, or you're still worried?
To an extent, sometimes people are just miserable and they're gonna say what they're gonna say, so you have to like understand that. Um, but I'm very careful. You can't not offend anybody. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Like someone's
It does.
always gonna have a way about it. But yeah, I'm also just like I may be like very outgoing. I'm also very shy. So I can only take so much of like people's opinions, but I'm
Right.
working on it. At some point, I'm like, I'm gonna just post it. I don't really care.
You
You
got
know?
to just post it. Yeah, you got to be yourself. You got to be authentic. It's got to make sense. I think you've done a great job of that, obviously, in your content. You share, you know, your life and things that are happening. Do you share things that like have gone bad? Would you share negative stuff like in your life, or that's not necessarily aligned to you?
Honestly, I would. This goes into hand in hand to just me being a shy person. Like, I film a lot of things that I'm like, oh my God, today this happened. Sometimes I just don't post it, but I film it. Even the good stuff. Sometimes I don't even post the good stuff because it's just a me thing, if I'm being honest. But that is my goal this year. I'm gonna be a lot more open and just post what I want to post.
You're
Like just
giving us way more insight this year.
yeah,
You're giving us
100%. That's my goal.
way more behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's my goal.
Do you feel that being a creator and social media has disrupted your dating life in any way?
Um, in a sense, yeah, because like the moment you tell someone, I actually had this experience the other day. I told somebody that like I'm an actress, I do social media. He shut down. He was like, oh, like, and I'm like, it's actually a thing where it's like, I hate to tell people, but it's like one of the first things I have to tell people. It's like, hey,
Okay.
I record my life. I like to share what I do. But you don't have to be in it, but it's like, I don't want to be judged for it, if that makes sense. Like, because they do, some people will judge you. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's interrupted my dating life, but I'm very selective. Very.
Course. Well, I even in the like in yeah, I couldn't imagine like being in the space and you know, even for me, somebody who like doesn't have a massive following, when you're like, have you had that experience of it's like you're talking to somebody and then you see them liking your posts and they're watching your stories, but then they're not responding back to your text?
And I'm like, okay, for sure. Got it.
What
I'm like, what are we doing?
what are we doing? So we can see, we have the analytics.
I could see it. I could see you. And like people think just because oh like I have a little bit of a following, I check every story. Like I scroll to the bottom. I
Okay.
always check because I'm like who's
Who's in my
engaging, who's
stuff?
watching. I check every story, every single one. People think I
Good.
don't. So yeah.
That's wild. So talk to me a little bit about growing your following. Obviously, you're on Instagram, you're on TikTok. Tell me the other platforms you're on or the other platforms you're thinking about being on. What does that look like for you?
Um, so I started, when did I start? Honestly, like I said, I started in high school. I had about 4 to 5 thousand followers in high school because I just feel like the city I lived in, everybody was kind of like we just knew each other. And then that's where I was like, oh, I like to post, I like to take pictures. So I'd post about 3 times a week because I wanted to get myself on a schedule. And then I kind of got my first brand collab. It was like very small. It was like my favorite thing ever. And they sent me something. And then in grade 12, my 12th year, my last year, I booked the TV show The Next Step. And
Yeah.
then from there, it's when you grow a bigger audience from like people who dance, people who watch the show. So from there, I remember in grade 12, I hit about 10K on
Yeah.
Instagram, which was like, whoa. So just kept posting and like reaching out to brands, and that's when that started during the pandemic. And then that's when I got onto TikTok. I was looking at it now, like it grew pretty rapidly, and because everyone was at home, we were all just on TikTok. So yeah, I feel like that's where it started to grow, and it's still growing. Hopefully, we can keep going.
Of course, yeah. Do you have a goal in mind for yourself of like where you want to see your following reach?
This year, I'm a very realistic shooter because I
Sure.
don't like disappointment. But right now, I'm about like 59.3 or 4K. So my
Okay.
goal is 60K.
Okay. Absolutely. You will get there.
Thank you. I mean,
100%. And I think with you, Everly, obviously it's lifestyle, but you show, beauty, hair, makeup, like dance, hang out with friends, like all over the place. What would you, if you could only do one type of, or lean into a niche in particular, which one would it be and why?
I think I would. Oh, that's a good question. I feel like I'd say lifestyle because within lifestyle, you can still do like makeup and fashion. So I can like incorporate that in like my daily vlogs. So I think I'd probably do lifestyle content for sure.
And do you feel like, are there people that you follow that you're like, oh, I want to like emulate their content a little bit, or like I like their vibe, like just to take inspo from? Like, are there
Sure.
people who you look to?
Yes, I love her name's Reagan777.
Okay.
She daily cleans or daily resets every single day. She's just that girl, like
Okay.
gym, makeup. She's really good at the lifestyle content, as well as someone named Aaliyah's Face. She's been doing this for years, and I remember I watched her during the pandemic, and that was honestly like a reason I was like, okay, I actually like really want to do this. So that kind of like shot me in the direction I wanted to go as well. So those two right now are like my girls.
Okay. Okay. If you had to give young creators advice, right, like going into the creator space, should they launch on Instagram first, TikTok first, Snapchat first, YouTube first, all? Like, what do you think makes sense?
I would say TikTok. I think right now TikTok is like just the easiest way to pop up. Everybody I feel like is popping up on TikTok. So I go from there to maybe Instagram. I think YouTube is the hardest place. Like I recently hit 7,000 subscribers and I've been doing this since the pandemic. So I also could be more consistent, which I'm actually going to be uploading a video today. So I will be more consistent on there. But yeah, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube.
Okay. And what has been the hardest part, like about building a following, like for you? What's been the most difficult challenge, would you say?
I think consistency is like a very difficult thing, only in the sense for me personally, is because I feel like I'm doing 1,000 things at one time. I like content creating, dancing, I teach dance, I work, I do a lot like at the same time. So I think finding like consistency is a hard thing. I also think letting the numbers discourage you
Mm,
is a real thing. And I also realize I'm like I have like people that will comment on every single video. So I don't know why I'm not doing it for them and I'm doing it for the people that are not focusing on me at all.
right.
It
That part.
really, it's like a mindset shift that I have to make because you're doing the best you can do.
Of
That's what you're doing the best you can do. Yeah.
And so, no, I think that's good, insight for people. And you're considered a micro influencer.
Mm.
So those are influencers that have like 10 to 100K followers. How do you feel about that term? Do you buy into it? Do you like it? Is there negative connotation, positive connotation? There's so much industry jargon. So, yeah, how do you feel about that tag of micro influencer?
I think being a influencer with about like 60,000 followers is, I think that's crazy to be called a micro influencer. I think about it all the time and I'm like, a lot of people don't not necessarily don't want to work with you, but like prefer a bigger audience, which makes
Sure.
sense. But it's like 60,000 people is a lot of people. Like
A
that is
lot.
a lot of people. So it doesn't upset me. It just makes you kind of like want to get out of being a micro influencer and work harder. I just think like when you actually think about the term, I think it's a little bit crazy.
For sure. And I think it's all about perception, right? And it's for certain brands need to understand, again, as you said, like 60,000 people is a lot of people. So if everybody in your audience is seeing it and engaging with you and liking with you, it's better than to go with somebody who has a million followers with maybe less engagement,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So it has to make sense,
100%.
right? So you've worked with a lot of great brands, of course. What have you learned along the way? What are some like lessons that you've learned in working with brands?
Honestly, I feel like with working with brands, just keep working hard. Also, just put your best foot forward. I'm also like a perfectionist, so if I don't like it, I'm gonna do it again. So I be authentic, be yourself, and work hard. Like if they want to work with you, I promise you they'll reach out, you know? So I think I've just been really grateful that people are like, oh yeah, like we'd love to choose you. So I think that's what I've learned working with big brands, yeah.
And so, do you feel like there's a secret sauce to like putting together an ad or like putting together, a collab? Like, how do you still show up as yourself but still sell the product? Like, how does it feel while you're putting those pieces together?
For sure. I think it's definitely only working with brands that you actually like, okay, like this is what I believe in, this is what I like, this is what I love, and I want to show that and share it with your viewers. Because like I said, people will just do anything for the money, and that's fine, go do your thing. But personally, I think the more you like the product, the easier it is to do the ad or do the brand deal. So I think planning, sitting down and actually thinking, okay, this is what I want it to look like, finding inspiration from other content creators, definitely not copying. Be like, ooh, I kind of like how they did that font. Maybe I should maybe do something along those lines and da 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 da. So I think a lot of planning and just seeing it in your head before actually like filming it, if that makes sense.
For sure. No, I think it does make sense. And I think it's kind of the thought process like behind the ad that's the creativeness that people don't think about as much. And I think for us, we're always educating brands like you're not just paying for the slot, meaning you're not just paying for them to post it. You're also paying for the genius that goes into the actual creation of the ad. But because they don't see a line item for that, they're doesn't always connect the dots, right? So that's the difference, between creating an ad and working with somebody who's actually like spending the time to think through that.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
agree. I
So
agree.
do you think this is a space where you're going to stay? Are you here to stay? Do you see other things for yourself or you like the creator world? You want to continue to be here and continue to build here?
I definitely I've always loved creating content, like pictures. I think this is a place for me to stay, honestly, especially with my other careers. Like I feel like they go hand in hand. So I think this is like the perfect place for me to just like find what I need to do and do what I need to do because I love it here. I love creating content.
And is there content that you feel like just to maybe give some tips to people before Instagram, like how do you buy into this? How long should the reel be? How short should it be? Should there be a static? How long should the caption be? Like, or do you just kind of do it? Or do you have a formula for yourself?
That's TikTok, I usually do a bit longer.
Okay.
Instagram, I keep it short and also like
Like
I try
how
to keep.
many seconds?
See, that's a good question. I keep everything usually, unless I'm yapping, I try and keep everything under a minute because me personally, my attention span is not there unless I'm on YouTube. YouTube, I could sit there, I watch hour-long vlogs. Like I could sit there, watch hour-long vlogs. But if it's like TikTok or Instagram, I would keep it honestly, depends on the type of content. If it's a vlog, or minute or less anything that you really want to snap and get their attention off like off rip, I'd say maybe like 10 seconds, honestly and truly. Like I've been doing a lot of studying and like watching like strategy videos, and from what they're doing it looks like it works, so I'm gonna start doing it more too. But 7 seconds, 10 seconds, or like a minute is what keeps people attention.
Ooh, interesting. So you're 7, 10, and 60.
Yeah, yeah,
That's your go-to.
yeah.
Okay, cool. So what do you want to leave people with? Like what should people obviously they can follow you on all your socials, but what should people know about you? If they come to follow you, what are they going to get? What are
Mm.
they going to learn more about? If they follow your pages.
You're probably gonna learn more about me. I'm a goof. Like I like to have fun. I'm like learning to let that out more. I like to make funny content. You're gonna get fashion, makeup, lifestyle, day in the life as an actress, or like what I do on a regular day. So I feel like you get a little bit of everything, which is like really nice. And my I get a from my friends, they're like, I like watching your stuff because you do like everything as well as like you're very yourself, which I appreciate. So I feel like you'll get to know me. We can be friends, you know?
Beautiful. Well, listen, Emmerly, thank you so much for chatting. I know it was short and sweet, but we wanted to get to know a little bit more about you. And I think we did that today. And thanks for your tips. And thanks for joining us at CreatorCon.
Of course, thank you for having me.